Hello everybody, it's Marg again with a quick and easy card layout. It's January 24th, 2023. I have a fun layout for us today that uses a 4-inch square of designer series paper. So I've got a template here to show you. There's the 4-inch square piece of paper, and as you can see, I've cut it diagonally. Now I'm going to show you how I put it together, but that's all it is, one square. All right, the card we're going to put together today, I'm using Rich Razzleberry cardstock, and our orientation is going to be, the card is going to open this way today. I do have some samples of other ones to show you at the end, but let's get started with this one. I am using the Dainty Flowers Designer Series paper that you got with your celebration, and I've used it before. Gorgeous paper, beautiful little flowers. So today we're using this sheet that reverses over to the pink. Now, I wanted to take my square of paper and cut it and then flip one over so that I'd have the two different patterns. However, what I found out when I cut the 4-inch square of this paper is that it reverses over and the pattern on the other side is not the right way. So this was my square of paper that I cut like this. Sorry, I'll move this one out of the way. This was my square of paper that I cut, but when I turned it over, I don't know if you can tell, but the pattern is not on this piece is not going to be the right way. So I thought, oh, so I put it back over like this, and I thought, we'll flip this one over. It's not the right way. So what I ended up having to do was cut 2 squares. So I've got 2 squares, and as you can see, I cut them. I don't know if you can tell now. I've got this one and this one. Do you see how I cut one this way and one this way? So what ends up happening is then when I flip this over, it's the right way for this one, and when I flip this one over, it's the right way for this one. So that's what I had to go with. So I'm actually going to end up making 2 cards, which is not a bad thing. 2 cards out of one little session here, but anyways, so that's one thing you have to pay attention to. When you turn your paper over, make sure that your patterns are going the right way, if it's a pattern that matters, a directional. So that's what I encountered with this paper, but I still really wanted to use it. So, all right, what I did with this paper is I will show you some really easy ones that don't use anything but the DSP and the cardstock. This particular one, I didn't like the look of that just on there like that as much. So I wanted to kind of, you can do it this way, absolutely. You can do it like this, and you'll see a sample that I made that I did exactly just this. But I kind of thought I wanted to jazz it up a little bit. So what I ended up doing was taking an embossing folder and a piece of Blushing Bride, and I don't know if you can see that. It's only embossed sort of down the middle. That's because this embossing folder, which is called From the Stripes and Splatters, this is the Splatters, it's a narrow one. So it doesn't do your whole sheet of paper. So I would have had some blank spots that you would have been able to see. I really only wanted the center embossed anyway because my corner pieces are going to go on top. So I just, when I put it through my embossing folder and my machine, I just had to angle it like that to get it to go through. So that's just FYI because this is a narrow one. Anyway, so this would go on like this, leaving me a nice edge. And then you can see where I have the blank pieces that aren't embossed, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to be putting my pieces like this. All right, so this is what I had planned for it. Let's see if it works. Now I'm actually thinking I want my flowered piece to be on the bottom. So I'm not sure I can change these. Let's just see. I can't change it that way. I'd have to go like that to be the right way. So I have to use the other two pieces of paper that I cut. Oh, it gets funny after a while, doesn't it? Like this and like this. There, I think this is the way I want this, with the more patterned piece on the bottom. And I'm just gonna attach these to my embossed layer first, and I'm going to attach them right to the corners, like right to the edges of this paper. Sorry, this paper is, this piece is 4 by 5 1/4. So it's just giving you that extra edge of rich raspberry around the outside of your card. So let's attach that. I'll bring in my silicone mat here. Let's attach these pieces. I'm going to use my liquid glue today, but you can use your glue runner if you need to. One thing about these triangle pieces, you really have to get up into these little corners to make sure that it sticks really good. And remember that you're putting it on an embossed piece, so I really like using the liquid glue for that because it gets in all the little bumps on your embossed sheet. Okay, so this is easy because you're just matching it to the edges. We're not leaving any edge of the blushing bride sticking over. And the same on this piece. Just stick it down. And of course, if you don't have a stamp cut and emboss machine or embossing folders, you don't have to do this. You could just do a plain layer underneath here, just to give it a little extra something. Does not have to be embossed. Okay, so there's our piece like that. So you can see this just gives it a bit of interest up the middle when you've embossed it. But again, it could be just a plain piece of paper. Now we can attach this to our card front. Now, so again, I'm using the liquid glue again because it is an embossed piece. It has a lot of little crevices that you want to get your glue in. And I find that the glue runner isn't as good on embossed pieces. And this, you're just going to center it on here, making sure your edges are the same basically all the way around. And there we go. There's our card front. Quick and easy. Now for our greeting, and however you want to embellish it, what I decided I would do is I'm going to use this label. I love this label because it's kind of fancy on the corners, and it comes from what's the name of those labels? Labels Aglow. It was a Christmas set. And it is carrying over, so that's a nice one. I think it's just very pretty. You can put ribbon in the ends of this one. You can thread ribbon through the ends, which makes it look really pretty also. And I thought today for the greeting, I know I've used some of the same greetings, so I thought I'd change it up a little bit. I'm going to use Charming Sentiments today, and I'm going to use Wishing You Everything Wonderful, and it just happens to fit perfectly on that label. So it is a photopolymer, so I will use my piercing mat to stamp with because it needs that extra cushion. Okay, so there's, and I thought I'd use rich raspberry ink because it should stand out nice on there. So we'll ink that up. And I do have, I always like to have a scrap piece of paper with me. And I often try it first to make sure I've inked it up good. and see what it looks like. I like the way it looks, so that's good. I'll re-ink it. And then I want to try to get this on here fairly straight. And it does just fit so nicely on here. Just give it a minute for the ink to soak in. There we go. So I think that looks really pretty. Wishing you everything wonderful. Again, that makes this card fairly versatile because you could use it for a birthday, you could use it for an anniversary, you could use it for a lot of different occasions. So let's put that ink out of the way because I don't want to get into it. Now that looks fine. I could put that on there just like that and it's quite pretty. But I thought, well, I need to jazz it up a little bit and I didn't want to use ribbon this time. So I'll move this out of the way. I decided I would take a piece of the Dainty Flowers paper. Now this is a different piece. This was the one we used with the reverse pink. This piece, the flowers are a bit bigger and it reverses over to this sort of watercolor piece, which is really cool. But I chose one of the flowers out of here. It was this one. And I just fussy cut around the edges of it. And there's lots of choices. You could choose any of these. Would look really nice on this. And I thought that might work. So I thought I could tuck it in here just to give this a little something. Oops. Just to give it just a little something. Now I thought that looked okay, but maybe it needed a little greenery. So I used the Framed Florets dies, and there's a die that cuts out this nice leaf, and I cut it out of old olive because I thought it looked good with that. And I thought it is kind of big, but I thought maybe just behind here it might look nice. So again, you just put that on like that. I thought that looked pretty. And then we'll use some embellishments to make it even prettier. Now I thought I would put this up on in dimensionals, but I think I'll put the dimensionals on the back of this, and I want to be able to tuck my flowers behind it. So and one thing about the label, I thought I don't want it sagging in the middle, so I'm going to put a dimensional in the middle also. So take those dimensionals off like that. I did bring my garbage can over today instead of throwing them on the floor. Take my backings off. And decide where I want to put this. Again, I kind of thought I wanted this to be like that. So should it be centered? Should it be on the bottom? I'm going to have to play around with it a little bit. Whoops. That's funny. I got that stuck on my dimensional already. I don't really want it there. I think I will put it just a little bit like that. Looks straight. All right, then I'll bring in my silicone mat again and just play with my arrangement of this. And it's really great when you play around with this because the glue can stay on the mat and then you just roll the glue off. So I think I just need a little bit of glue on the back of this stem, just to stick it to the greenery. And I want the greenery to be kind of like that, I think. Just like that. And then you can always trim the ends of your stems. You can always trim them off so that they don't show. We don't want them to show. And bring our card back in. And then, like I say, we can play around with this a little bit. Be like like it there, or you like it over. See, I like it over there better. Okay, easy enough. Put a little bit of glue on the back of these stems that are now glued together. And I just want glue on the stems. I don't want it on all these leaves, because if you leave it rather loose, then it gives it some interest if it's a little bit loose. Now I may play with that a little bit, and I might put a little glue behind this flower just because it might pop up just a bit too much. And just make sure that whatever you've got doesn't extend over the edge of your card so that it'll fit in the envelope. There. So that's looking very pretty. I think that turned out nice. And we could still embellish it. What I brought, sorry, what I brought for embellishments today is opal rounds. And again, they're very iridescent and they kind of pick up the pink. I thought they'd be nice on here, so let's try those. Take your pick tool and let's see, what do we want to put? They come in two sizes, so quite big and then a medium kind of size. I think I might just use the smaller ones, and they are rounded. So I'm not going to put any on my label, I don't think. I think I will put them just on the card itself. One there. One there. And one more. Maybe up here. Just like that. Okay, so that is our card. Now the inside, I've cut a white piece, piece of basic white cardstock, 4 by 5 1/4 to go in the inside. Now we can stamp on it. We can add a piece of designer series paper on it. It'd be nice if it had a piece of the flowers on it, I think. But I do have a piece of green. I also have a piece of green here that I could use and glue on the inside like this. And that might look pretty in the inside because of the flowers being, I think if I cut a strip of the flowers, you're not going to get anything but a bunch of stems. So the other option would be to cut a piece of the pink, which I could do that too. I could cut a piece of this. Just cut it across like that. Again, you're not going to see much of it because of it being, you're not going to get much of a, I think I'll use the green. I like the green. So again, I'll bring in my mat, and what I do when I go to glue something on is I put the piece I'm going to glue it onto, and this piece is way longer. So instead of putting glue all over it, I just sort of line it up, and then I know exactly where it's going to be, except I want the other side of it. So I put it like this, and then I know that the glue only needs to go here and across. Just like that. And then when I flip it over, I know this is the end that has no glue on it. So I'm going to line it up here, my edge. Do it like that. There we go. That looks good. And then I just flip it over, and I can cut this end off. Just like that. Perfect. And then that can go on the inside. I did think I would stamp on the inside, and I am going to make this a birthday card. I use a lot of birthday cards. So I took the happy birthday from the Peaceful Moments. You know, I use this one a lot because it has such great sayings on it. So I better put that on there fairly straight though. Okay, we'll bring in our rich raspberry ink again. And because this one is a red rubber stamp, I don't need the Stampin' Pierce mat underneath it. I will move my I like to have my paper nice and straight. That's why I use the grid paper, because you can put your paper on very straight, and then I know that this should go. Don't really have it. There we go. Just stamp it like this. A little bit crooked, but it'll do. I shouldn't have put my strip on, and I should have stamped it first. Now, what I can do to maybe offset that is stamp I could stamp a leaf or something, and that should bring your eye down a little bit. So I'll bring in some old olive ink, and I will bring in the framed florets stamps, and they have a leaf. I think maybe that might help offset what I just did. So there's the leaf from the framed florets, and it is photopolymer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take it like this, and I'm going to, I think, stamp it off on my scrap paper. I'll just stamp it off once because it's quite dark, and then I'm going to just kind of stamp it over there like that, and that sort of changes the way it looks a little bit. So hopefully we've salvaged that. We don't have to throw this piece away. And then glue this into our card. And we're set to go. Quick and easy. I think that didn't take too many minutes to do, with all my talking in between. Okay, so there's that card all done. Looks very, very pretty. This paper is so gorgeous. And the inside. So there we have it. So there's our card. I'm going to close up my ink pad so I don't get anything in my ink, and get rid of my stamps so that I don't flip anything over. Now I wanted to show you the other cards that I've made using the same layout with the 4-inch square. I'm going to bring that back so you can see that. Maybe I'll put it down here. There's the 4-inch square that we used, and we cut it. I'll just put it like that. So there's the card we made today. Now these cards I've made using retired paper, which you know I use a lot of that. So I'll just show you what happened with this one. Okay, this one is very, very simple. I cut my paper square. I mounted this card opens this way. I mounted it right onto the Calypso Coral piece of cardstock. I stamped onto a white piece, and then I just used my scissors and cut it off. So you don't need anything here except your trimmer and your designer series paper and a stamp, and that's as easy as it is. I did embellish it with some embellishments that are retired. This is that Playing with Patterns paper, which I've used before, and then on the inside I just did this and did the strip of paper across the bottom. No greeting in this one yet. But that's so simple. But I do want to show you what happened with this one. Again, when you're taking your paper, I wanted to use this piece of paper, and this particular package of paper is 6x6. I liked this, and I thought, oh, I'll use the Calypso Coral cardstock. But when I flipped it over, it was this, and I went, didn't really want the crushed curry on the other side. So then I went looking through the package, and I came across this piece. Well, I liked this piece because it goes good with this, and it goes good with my Calypso Coral base. But look what was on the other side of it. Well, I went, well, those two don't go together at all. So what I did again is I cut 2 4x4 squares. I used this side of the one triangle and this side of the other triangle, as you can see here. Then I was left with a triangle like this and a triangle like this. So again, I have another card. So I went ahead and made it. So this is the card I came up with. Now this one, I did add basic white behind both of the triangles. So instead of a 4-inch square, I cut a 4 1/4 inch square, leaving me just that little edge. So this just sets it off the navy a little bit. Gives it just a little bit of a different look. And then I used the Label Me Lovely punch. And I used some retired stamp sets to stamp this with Happy Birthday. I used some of the retired denim ribbon and some retired embellishments, but it opens like this. And again, a retired stamp set, and I put the piece this way this time, the piece of designer series paper. So there's another option where you can just add another piece of cardstock underneath it to give it just a little, it lifts it off of the navy paper just a little bit. So that's another one. Just stepped it up a little bit. Now this one, exactly the same. I took a square, 4-inch square of paper. This paper is also retired. It did reverse from this side to this side, so it worked perfectly. Sorry, I need a drink. I put it on Bermuda Bay cardstock, this one. And what I did with this is just a plain card that opens like this. There's my square. I put it, based it in the corner, as you can see, and there's very little between the two. I put them pretty close together, leaving me this edge. So I thought, well, I need to do something on this edge. I could have used designer series paper here. Instead, I used the Hive embossing folder on another piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock, and I just embossed a strip, put it underneath, put the ribbon behind it, and a bow. Okay. This is retired dye, but it works good. And I embellished it. This pack of paper came with butterflies that you could cut out, so I embellished it with a butterfly. And in the inside, again, I used, this is a retired set, this die, but color and contour stamps have dies that are scalloped like this that you could substitute. And then I just put my strip of paper right onto my cardstock, and still leaving you lots of room to write your message. So that's another one. So there's all the different options that we had for cards. This is the one we made today, and they're all done from 4-inch square piece of designer series paper. So I hope you enjoyed that. Give it a try. You can play around with the way you set these things up, and just remember when you're cutting your triangles, look at the other side and make sure that it's going to be going the right way, or that it's the right colors or whatever. But sometimes you end up getting 4 triangles instead, and you can make 2 different cards. All right, have a great day, everybody.